My mom had that steel magnolia kind of strength that only women in the South seem to possess. She tempered it with kindness and with encouragement. When she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, she stood alone in her empowerment for a while because the rest of us, our first reaction was to pull up that blanket of denial. As she got deeper and deeper into the darkness of her disease, she somehow managed to get us to wake up, and we became her caregivers and her legacy keepers. She said, "You've reported on lots of stories in your lifetime, honey. Now go and tell this story, and use it and make it count." That really is where the Leeza Gibbons Memory Foundation began. It began with my mom's courage and with her very simple direction. I promised my mom that I would tell the story, that I would share our family's journey, and we began to honor that promise through what we call Leeza's Place. We offer free services to caregivers and their loved ones who face any kind of chronic illness or disease. And our living room settings were designed after our mom's kitchen, where the door is always open and the coffee is always on. And we dish out a lot of hope and a lot of help, along with the hugs. In the years since we have formed our nonprofit, I've become somewhat of a reluctant expert on Alzheimer's disease. I've cried with many families and relied on hope and faith when it seemed that there were answers nowhere to be found. Being a caregiver means that you carry an extremely heavy burden. And you don't often realize the toll that that takes on you, on your mind, body, soul, and spirit. My forward-thinking parents taught me to embrace change. And every family who navigates through the treacherous waters of Alzheimer's disease is intimate with change. We're ready to say today that it is no longer acceptable for us to wait for someone else to tackle this long goodbye. We say today that it's no longer an option for us to ignore the cost of this disease to the state, the cost of this disease to families in terms of stress-related disorders, in terms of frayed nerves, in terms of lost jobs. The caregiver burden, the compassion fatigue is real, and it is overwhelming at times. This is a disease that bankrupts spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Things have just got to change. I believe that those who are forgetting should not be forgotten. And I believe that no caregiver should ever be alone. I also believe that love is love, and that it transcends this very heinous disease. And I know that it will take the brilliance and the energy and the commitment and the innovation and the dedication of this group, this task group, this Office on Aging, and many others to lock elbows and stare this disease down so that we can create a world without memory loss. My brother and sister and I used to wonder if we would get Daddy back from the grips of the disease that stole his wife. All too often, the caregivers are victims of enormous stress and fatigue that comes from the compassion and the duties that seem to be relentless. And then Daddy engaged in the work of this task force. He's walking on a new path now. It's one where the next step is supported by like-minded people, all dedicated to the same goal, proudly presenting our state with this comprehensive plan. And so here we are. We're now looking down the road, looking at the next few years, and wondering if we have done everything that we can. wondering if we've done all that we can to offer comfort and care and hope and help to the millions of families who need it most. Thanks to the work that we present in this report, this Blue Ribbon Task Force Comprehensive Plan, we can dig deep down into our hearts and say, we have done our very best. And as my mom would say, that's good enough for God and everybody. I'm very honored to be sharing this moment with you. I'm very impressed at the amount of work and the amount of heart that has gone into presenting the work of this task force for this Blue Ribbon Plan. And I'm thrilled to say that my dad had a part of it, and I would like for you all now to meet and say hello to a man who's been a great inspiration, a great leader for this cause, a man who loved my mom through it all and held our hands and nurtured our hearts through this long divide. My dad, Leeza Gibbons.